want to read a soul leveling wannabe?
だが断る。
Okay then. How about a soju?
No!
Great. Then do you want to dive into a manual that's a mixtape of all of your favorite tropes? Then A Knight Who Returned of a God is for you. Yeah, I know. The manual's name is a mouthful, but it's not as bad as the Stoondre girl getting less and less stoon by the day.
Did I just hear that right?
Yeah, I don't know how that's a real title. It's similar to the Sword King Reincarnated in the World in the fact that its name really doesn't do it justice. While it's by far not the most original manhwa, borrowing many tropes and using them, it does it to an extreme level of perfection, creating one of the most enjoyable, action-packed reads of the season. A great thing about this manhwa is that it's pretty much the only one with an overpowered protagonist who uses holy powers. While yes, the fantasy world he's sent to and the hunter system on Earth are both pretty generic and overdone, it makes up for it by introducing one of the most unique aspects ever seen before. In the fantasy world, we mainly see the Kingdom of Lionheart, which is where Chapter 1 takes place. A place struggling with invasions from monsters and demons, which is protected by the Holy Knights. It's kind of obvious, but Lionheart DMC becomes Night King, the strongest knight blessed by the goddess. It's his job to make sure the monsters and demons can't treat the world like their own personal playground. It's obvious the fantasy world only exists for the protagonist to become the Night King, creating the unique aspect of the story, but it also relates to the gates on Earth. The gates on Earth are essentially dungeons the hunters can enter, and if they're not cleared before a certain time limit, monsters will pour out and destroy the surroundings. The unique thing is that every gate leads to a ruined world, one that was invaded by demons and lost. Similar to what happened to Lionheart's world, this is setting up what could be the most interesting series of arcs and perhaps the most unique take on gates and soul leveling. It will be interesting to see Lionheart and his companions explore these lost worlds while defeating monsters, slowly uncovering the mystery of the gates and the system. Now we've only scratched the surface here. Sure, the side characters haven't had their moment in the spotlight yet. And while complex themes are MIA, and not even close to something like you would expect out of Vinland Saga, come on, the manhwa is just a toddler at 18 chapters. What it does have is the best first chapter of any manhwa ever written. Nothing else can compete with it. Oh, but soul leveling. Be quiet, soul leveling cell number 4098. It's very common for manhwa to have slow pacing at the beginning, while the author crams in as much exposition as humanly possible, so much it would even explode an elephant's stomach. But this manhwa is a start. Very quickly, all the exposition is done as quickly as you would expect because it's a basic fantasy world. Most people reading will know all the information the author could tell you. He doesn't need to go and make a magic system or explain it all in the first chapter because he can introduce it later in the story and more naturally at that. So this creates an extremely fast-paced first chapter, and while it does go through so much content that he really could have just written a whole straight up different matter about it, and it would have been an extremely sick series, I consider that okay because this is Lionheart's backstory, and the author wanted to flesh it out as much as possible before sending him back to Earth and encountering all of the gates and the rest of the plot. So doing this allows him to start the series with a fully fleshed out character, making it different from the other manhwas where the main protagonists are still trying to find and define themselves as a person, while in this one, Lionheart starts out set in stone knowing who he is, and instead of trying to figure out who he is and become a better person or become stronger, he's actually trying to change Earth and make Earth stronger. So he kind of switched it around and made it more interesting that way.